Welcome back to another video. Let's get started. So over the weekend we formed something called a CME gap, and a CME gap is a price difference which is formed over the weekend. So where my cursor is here is where Bitcoin's price was on Friday, and then this is the price here on Monday. So this difference in price is the price that Bitcoin has fluctuated over the weekend, and we can see it has gone up over the weekend. And what is to note about CME gaps is they tend to be filled rather sooner than later. It's obviously not a good thing for us. It suggests that the price will go down back into this range to fill the CME gap, which is around between $111,000 down to $110,000 per Bitcoin. And if it gets filled, we might go back down to this price. However, I want to point out that this is not always the case. So CME gaps tend to be filled, yes, rather sooner than later. For example, here, this was in August, just a few months ago. The CME gap was filled in a few days time, and we have another CME gap right here, but this is not always the case. So actually last year, if we go to November of last year, you see this CME gap right here. I will point it out for you. The CME gap that was formed here over the weekend, it was not filled until much later. Actually, it was not filled until here 109 days, 110 days after it was opened. And especially when we're in a bull market, these CME gaps are not always filled, right? So what we have right now might be a chance that the price goes much higher, and we just keep on going higher, and then eventually when the bull market ends, then we fill it much later, the same CME gap. And another thing to note is that we're obviously still in the end stage of the market, right? So if we have here these halving cycles, I think the bull market will end around about October of this year. So we have about 4 or 5 weeks left of the bull market for this year, which I think we can go up to and then fill the CME gap. But definitely be cautious. I don't think this cycle will last forever, and it will definitely not last forever. And another thing to note here, if we zoom in a bit on Bitcoin, is let's zoom on the daily chart. We can see that Bitcoin has successfully broken out of the support resistance line, which we have previously bounced from. We've bounced from it here and then here, also there. We've had some action here, and now we've finally bounced back up from it, which is good news, especially considering that we're going to October. And October, as we know, is usually always very bullish for Bitcoin. I can show you the numbers right here actually. So September is just coming to an end now. We've had about 5% gain for Bitcoin, and the average for September is about a 3% loss. But now let's look at October. You can see here for October, the average is almost 22% in gain. And that's really good to know. That's why we call it PUMPtober, because in October, usually Bitcoin tends to gain. And if we look at the weekly returns, this is the weekly returns now, and this is the current week, we can see that the upcoming weeks here, these are all the upcoming weeks, they're all bullish. There's all positive returns. So hopefully that means that we're going to have a few positive weeks now coming up for Bitcoin. What I also wanted to point out here for Bitcoin is that we have basically some conversion going on. So you can see here we have, we have higher highs. Let me draw it like this. We have higher highs, and then we have lower lows. And obviously what this means is that we have something like a triangle forming usually, and a triangle tends to break upwards. I like a descending triangle, which is in this case a descending triangle. They tend to break upwards, so I think that's another reason why we might go higher. And if we zoom out a bit more onto the weekly chart, we can see the resistance or support that lies below us is all the way down here at around $74,000 per Bitcoin, which I think will go down to once the bear market actually hits. I've shown you guys the Bitcoin weekly and monthly returns, so the October is going to be probably very bullish for us. And quickly to go into Ethereum, Ethereum is now retesting this upper support level, which we've tested here once, we've tested twice, and now we're testing it again. And hopefully going into October, as Bitcoin goes higher, I think Ethereum will then take the bounce from here, go higher, and with it, take all of the altcoins also to go higher. And yeah, that's the play, in my opinion, for the next few weeks. And with that being said, see you guys next time.